Clearance of the Admiralty-occupied site set for Thursday. The CE vows to win the support of two-thirds of lawmakers for political reform passage. And a massive cleanup in the Philippines in the wake of Typhoon Hagupit.
Good evening, and it's day 73 of the Occupy protests. Bailiffs, with the help of police, plan to clear the Occupy protest site in Admiralty at 9 a.m. on Thursday, in accordance with a court injunction. And the police will clear the rest of the occupied area there as part of the operation. Evelyn Leung reports.
Bailiffs and the legal team of All China Express arrived at the Admiralty protest site at around 3 this afternoon. They posted copies of the injunction order there. The order is on prominent display in 7 areas, including a section of Connaught Road Central near City Hall, a section of Harcourt Road outside the PLA barracks, and a section of Cotton Tree Drive. The injunction order was also published in newspapers. This morning, the injunction applicant and its legal team held talks with bailiffs and the police. It was announced after the meeting that the clearance action will take place on Thursday at 9 a.m.
What I would like to do now is to perhaps make a public plea to the students to stay away from the scene when there's still plenty of time, and try to remove as many obstacles as you may, or personal effect that you have from the area, just to make sure that you don't have sort of lose those items or sort of cause unnecessary conflicts or confrontations.
He said around 20 to 30 agents will be enforcing the injunction order, and that they will be wearing vests with clear labels. Tse expects the operation to last about 2 hours. Some Occupy protesters were seen packing up their belongings today.
Any act of obstructing the execution of court order would amount to criminal contempt of court. Police will take resolute actions against anyone who obstructs or violently charges the bailiffs who are executing their duty. After assisting bailiffs with the execution of the injunction order on Thursday, we will remove other obstacles on the carriageways and pavements in Admiralty and Central.
Over at the Causeway Bay protest site, some demonstrators believe the area will too be cleared soon, even though no injunction order has been sought. But some say they are willing to leave on their own because they understand the inconvenience caused to nearby residents. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
The chief executive said this morning the government is determined to strive for the support of two-thirds of legislators needed for the passage of a political reform proposal. The pan-democratic lawmakers insist they will stay united in vetoing any proposal based on the framework set by the National People's Congress Standing Committee in August. They've also accused Leung Chun-ying of trying to create a divide in the pro-democracy camp. Speaking before the weekly Executive Council meeting, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying said the SAR and central governments are determined to implement universal suffrage in 2017. He warned the pan-democratic lawmakers that if they vote down the government's political reform proposal, they will cause Hong Kong voters to lose their right for one person, one vote in the next CE election. And this is a responsibility to their voters each pan-democratic lawmaker has to bear. His statements touched a raw nerve with the pro-democracy lawmakers.
What I worry is that this is a tactic by the chief executive and the government to try to divide and conquer our pan-democratic camp, to make it look like that certain members of us would be able to be switched by the government to pocket their proposal, which is totally untrue. Under the August 31st decisions, there cannot be any way that the reform package can achieve universal suffrage, which is a genuine universal suffrage standard.
The Democratic Party was among the pan-democrats, stressing that none of its votes will be swayed, a sore point for the party after it was chided as traitors for making a last-minute deal to support the government in 2010. The Labour Party's Sid Ho said even if the government can get the 4 votes needed from the pan-democratic camp to get the package passed, in the long run, when people realise the government is still not accountable, then even today's moderates will be spurred to take stronger action. Meanwhile, the Liberal Party's James Tien said he has relayed the student protesters' desire to meet with Leung Chun-ying after a meeting with the CE today.
But I try my best to lobby him that we need a more amicable society, that Hong Kong camp doesn't mean only the pro-establishment. I really like to see that the two sides get back together. And the best person to lead this is the chief executive himself.
But Tien admitted that he doesn't see the demand that the whole political reform process be restarted as a viable way of moving ahead. A new poll shows the popularity of the police force has sunk to a new low since the 1997 handover. The survey of nearly 650 people was conducted over the phone by the University of Hong Kong at the end of last month. Other disciplinary forces, such as the fire services, immigration, correctional services, all saw a rise in ratings compared with half a year ago. But the rating for the police dropped by 1.3 points, with its net satisfaction rate at 29 points, the lowest it's been since 1997. Public Opinion Programme Director Robert Chung said this is because the police have been used by the government as a political tool in the Occupy protests. He also called on the police to be more stringent in their professionalism. In response, the police said they always follow the law and stay politically neutral in carrying out their duties. More people and groups have filed claims for compensation at the Small Claims Tribunal over the Occupy movement. 3 members of a taxi union has filed claims of around $6,000 to $9,000 against the 3 Occupy Central organisers, student leaders Lester Shum and Joshua Wong, as well as Nix Media chairman Jimmy Lai. Lai was represented by his aide Mark Simon today. He submitted a document claiming there are no grounds for claims against Lai. The taxi group finally decided to drop the claims against Lai. Meanwhile, the cases involving the other 5 defendants have been adjourned until January the 5th. The court will decide then whether to accept a defendant's request to combine all similar claims into one case for the High Court to handle.
Turning overseas now, the Philippines is cleaning up after being hit by Typhoon Hagupit. The storm has been blamed for at least 27 deaths, and the number could go up as rescuers try to gain access to hard-hit areas. James Wong reports.
Picking up the pieces after another killer storm hit. Hagupit has weakened and started to blow away from the Philippines, and the damage this time around is not as widespread as Super Typhoon Haiyan a year ago. Still, emergency workers have been struggling to reach some of the hardest hit coastal areas. Local Red Cross officials say roads are spotty and access is very difficult. In eastern Samar province, tens of thousands of houses have been crushed or damaged. In all, more than 1 million people were evacuated. President Benigno Aquino has canceled an overseas trip to focus on the cleanup efforts.
Solidarity, not just sympathy. Climate justice. Climate justice now.
Halfway across the world at a United Nations climate conference in Peru, activists pointed to the devastation caused by Hagupit and Haiyan and called for stepped-up action in the fight against global warming.
Compared to last year, our preparations this year have paid off. But there is another one coming before the year ends. How many Hagupits, how many violent lashing can we actually bear? This is a question that holds true, not only to us, but for others similarly situated. And this is what we expect this forum to provide: answers, actions, results.
Jameson Wong, TVB News.
South Korean authorities are investigating reports that the daughter of the chairman of Korean Air ordered a plane about to take off to go back to the gate so she could remove a flight attendant. The incident happened last Friday when Heather Cho, who is a vice president of the airline, was in a first-class seat on a flight from New York to Incheon. According to South Korean media reports, Cho took issue with the flight attendant who had offered her macadamia nuts in a bag and not on a plate. She summoned the cabin crew chief to ask whether the flight attendant was following the in-flight service manual. When the cabin crew chief could not answer the question, Cho ordered him off the plane, prompting the pilot to return the plane to the gate. Korean Air said the plane finally arrived at Incheon 11 minutes late. It also said Cho is in charge of in-flight service for the carrier. A Transport Ministry official said even though Cho is a senior executive, she was a passenger at the time of the incident. The authorities are investigating whether her action infringed any aviation law.
US embassies are on high alert around the world ahead of the release of a congressional report that's expected to reveal details of the harsh interrogation methods used by the CIA. A summary of the document will be made public later today, and officials say there is plenty of material which suggests America's spy agency went too far while handling terror suspects. US authorities are bracing themselves for the fallout from the release of a congressional report into a CIA program launched under President George W. Bush after the September 11, 2001 attacks. The 480-page summary of the actual report is expected to reveal details of harsh interrogations, including the use of torture to extract information from suspects. US embassies and other sites are taking precautions amid fears there could be a violent backlash in certain countries.
There are some indications that the release of the report could lead to a greater risk that is posed to US facilities and individuals all around the world. So the administration has taken the prudent steps to ensure that the proper security precautions are in place at US facilities around the globe.
As well as revealing details about the interrogations, the report is expected to conclude that the harsh methods failed to deliver the appropriate results or save lives. The report from the Senate Intelligence Committee will be the first public accounting of the CIA's use of what critics call torture on al-Qaeda detainees held at black secret sites in Europe and Asia. It also asserts that the CIA lied about the covert program to officials at the White House, the Justice Department and congressional oversight committees. Publication of the report had been delayed amid disagreement in Washington over what to publish. The full 6,000-page document remains classified.
And still ahead in our news tonight. The body of a young woman found at a Mongkok refuse collection point. Prince William and his wife continue their visit to the US. And evidence that a huge crater on Mars was once a lake.
唔用油都炸到好味道。
飛利浦 Air Fryer 免油健炸鍋，用高速空氣循環技術代替油炸，幫你減少80% 油脂負擔。創新只為令你更健康，更多選擇，更多健康美味。
Innovation and you, Philips。
頭髮夠 volume， 令人更型。Salon Pro 一撳就染得，唔單止冇味，染過嘅頭髮會變得堅韌，唔易斷。Salon Pro One Push Cream 染髮變護髮，頭髮夠 volume 更型。
喂，阿仔啊，我頭好痛啊，仲鼻塞添啊！你等下。喂，老婆。頭腦好痛啊，仲周身骨痛。我發燒啊，你摸下我頭幾興。我接到鼻水啦，我咳死。
幸福為你行多步，特強幸福傷風咳素，12大傷風感冒同咳症狀，一次過 KO。幸福為你行多步。
飛利浦 Sonic Care 特有專利聲波科技，釋出嘅液體清潔動力能深入罅隙，潔齒更徹底。飛利浦 Sonic Care 聲波震動牙刷。
Innovation and you, Philips。
The time now is 7:44. The time check was brought to you by Seiko.
Welcome back.